Hi Bartonella buddies! If you're new to my channel, my name is Jake, like the boy's name, and today I want to give you an update on my second Exosomes infusion, which I had 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to have my next Exosomes infusion in another 2 weeks. Something a little crazy happened after my second Exosomes infusion. I'm a little reticent to tell you about it because it's kind of embarrassing when you spend a lot of money for something and then it doesn't go the way that you had planned, but it all worked out in the end. What happened was I got my second Exosomes infusion, and it is the largest dose that this lab offers and that my doctor offers. I went a little crazy. The infusion was over a 30-minute period. It went fine. We drove home. I took a shower and I was feeling super hungry, and then I started feeling super shaky and I was like, okay, I'm just low blood sugar. And my mom had just left to go do a brief errand, and I texted her that I was freezing and that something was not right. So when she came home, she found me curled up in a fetal position in front of our space heater on the floor, and I had a blanket doubled up over me, but I was still freezing, and I was like, it's just because I'm hungry and like my hair's wet. But that's not really why. So I asked her to blow dry my hair so I wouldn't be as cold. I was laying down on the ground, so she blew dried.
Blew my hair dry?
Because it's like blow dry is 2 verbs. I guess it's blow dried. Okay, so she blow dried my hair on one side, and then when it was time to get the other side of my head, I just slowly and gingerly rolled over so she could blow dry this side. But I was still freezing. So she got another blanket and doubled it up and put it on me, and I was still freezing. So she got my comforter from my bed and she doubled it up, but I was still freezing. So she got 2 heating pads and we put them underneath all of those blankets and comforters, and I was still freezing. So she turned the thermostat of the house up to 80 degrees and I was still freezing. So she got me sweatpants and a sweatshirt and I was still freezing. At this point in time, the chills and the headache were so bad, and I can't take any Tylenol or ibuprofen because I react to that. Really, the only medications that I have for any sort of reaction or pain or discomfort is my Benadryl and my very low dose Valium. So at this point, I took 1 Benadryl and my low dose of Valium, and about an hour later, I started to feel better, but I still felt like crap. But I was able to move to my bed, and I took another Benadryl and another low dose of Valium, and finally I was feeling a little bit more human. I was able to take a nap. So throughout this whole ordeal, my mom and I didn't think to take my temperature because we're stupid, or really it was just so chaotic. So we did take it after the second installment of Benadryl and Valium, and it was at 100.5. So I really want to know what my fever was when I was freezing in the fetal position on the floor, but we'll never know. So at this point in time, I was finally feeling better enough to feel scared about what had just happened. And we called my doctor on the after hours line. So I asked him if he'd ever had someone have a fever before, and he said no, and I'm just so unique. You don't want to be unique with a chronic illness. You want other people to have had the exact same reaction, but I guess I was his first. That sounds weird. His first fever post Exosomes. As doctors do, unless you're like literally dying, they're not that impressed. So he wasn't that impressed by my 100.5 fever, and he wasn't that alarmed, especially since it was coming down. And I kept on my Benadryl and Valium schedule as normal every 3 hours, and the fever continued to come down. I went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, I was a little bit nervous that I was going to have a recurrence of fever, and I didn't. And the next day, the doctor's office did call to check up on me and to make sure I was okay, which if you have a chronic illness, you know that doesn't happen all that often. No one gives a shit about ya. Actually, I do think that my doctors give a shit about me. They just don't have enough time. So the next day, I was completely fine. I was back to my normal bad baseline. And then the following day, I woke up with a fever blister, aka a cold sore, aka herpes simplex 1, which I have had since as long as I can remember. And so I don't know if the cold sore was like, I mean, all cold sores are a reactivation of HSV1, but was it due to the exosomes or was it due to the fever, which happened after the exosomes? It doesn't really matter. I was able to choke down 2 Valtrex and stop the cold sore in its tracks, and obviously it healed. Since then, I have had a slow and steady decrease in my bodily pain and my reactivity. The reason I know this is that I don't have to use heating pads as often to fall asleep. I have much more usage of my hands. It's still very limited. For example, I was able to edit the clips of my video together myself last night, and I didn't have to ask my mom to do that, which is a whole ordeal in and of itself. I still can only stand 15 minutes total in a day, but I'm also using, just like before, a lot less HIST-DAO, diamine oxidase, which means that I'm having a lot less reactivity when I'm eating and a release of histamine. So my next infusion is in 2 weeks, and last time I told you how at about the 4-week mark I started to have a relapse. So I made sure to schedule my next infusion less than 4 weeks from the last infusion. You would think that since I got a much larger dose than the first time around, that acute anti-inflammatory effect would last longer. And my doctor did say that presumably it would, but I'm not taking any chances. I scheduled my next infusion 3 weeks and 5 days from the previous one and not 4 full weeks. Even though I am by no means cured, I am by no means not totally reliant on my mom, but even just being able to use my hands a little bit more, don't get it twisted, I still have to use voice to text, but even just being able to use my hands a little bit more and being in less pain is so welcome. Is that worth the money? No, not yet. We're gonna wait to see for those meaningful immunomodulatory effects that it's going to take several months. It's going to take at least 3 to 4 months to start seeing that. I think this whole time I've had this fuzzy in my hair. So yeah, the whole thing started off a little bit sketchy, and I wasn't gonna tell you how sketchy it actually was until I got to the other side, and I did, and I'm feeling pretty good, relatively. And I will update you after the next Exosomes infusion, after I make sure that I come out the other side again. So wish me luck. And if you've done Exosomes, please join our Exosomes Experiences group. We would love to have you. We would love to have your input. I think people would love to ask you questions about how it went for you. I will put a link in the video description box. And if you have bartonellosis, please join our Breaking Down Bartonella Facebook group page. That will also be in the video description box. Subscribe to my channel so you're notified when I post that next update. And thanks for watching. Piper says, bye, Bartonella and Exosomes buddies. Bye.